Avarice by George Herbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Michael Dalling. Money, thou bane of bliss and source of woe, whence comest thou, that thou art so fresh and fine? I know thy parentage is base and low. Man found thee poor and dirty in a mine. Surely thou didst so little contribute to this great kingdom which thou now hast got, that he was fain, when thou wert destitute, to dig thee out of thy dark cave and grot. Then, forcing thee by fire, he made thee bright. Nay, thou hast got the face of man, for we have with our stamp and seal transferred our right. Thou art the man, and man but dross to thee. Man calleth thee his wealth, who made thee rich, and while he digs out thee, falls in the ditch. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ballad of a Ship by Edwin Arlington Robinson, recorded for LibriVox.org by Shona. Down by the flash of the restless water, the dim white ship, like a white bird, lay. Laughing at life and the world, they sought her, and out she swung to the silvering bay. Then off they flew on their roistering way, and the keen moon fired the light foam, flying up from the flood where the faint stars play, and the bones of the brave in the wave are lying. 'Twas a king's fair son with a king's fair daughter, and full 300 beside, they say, revelling on for the lone cold slaughter, so soon to seize them and hide them for aye. But they danced and they drank, and their souls grew gay, nor ever they knew of a ghoul's eye spying their splendor, a flickering phantom to stray, where the bones of the brave in the wave are lying. Through the mist of a drunken dream they brought her, this wild white bird, for the sea fiend's prey. The pitiless reef in his hard clutch caught her, and hurled her down where the dead men stay. A torturing silence of wan dismay, shrieks and curses of mad souls dying. Then down they sank to slumber and sway, where the bones of the brave in the wave are lying. Envoy. Prince, do you sleep to the sound alway of the mournful surge and the seabirds crying? Or does love still shudder and steel still slay, where the bones of the brave in the wave are lying? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The City by Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Read for LibriVox.org by Kane Perlic. KanePerlic@gmail.com. It was golden and splendid, that city of light, a vision suspended in deeps of the night, a region of wonder and glory, whose temples were marble and white. I remember the season, it dawned on my gaze, the mad time of unreason, the brain-numbing days, when winter, white-sheeted and ghastly, stalks onward to torture and craze. More lovely than Zion, it shone in the sky, when the beams of Orion beclouded my eye, bringing sleep that was filled with dim memories of moments obscured and gone by. Its mansions were stately, with carvings made fair, each rising sedately on terraces rare, and the gardens were fragrant and bright with strange miracles blossoming there. The avenues lured me with vistas sublime, tall arches assured me that once on a time I had wandered in rapture beneath them and basked in the halcyon clime. On the plazas were standing a sculptured array, long-bearded, commanding, brave men in their day. But one stood dismantled and broken, its bearded face battered away. In that city effulgent no mortal I saw, but my fancy indulgent to memory's law lingered long on the forms in the plazas, and eyed their stone features with awe. I fanned the faint ember that glowed in my mind, and strove to remember the aeons behind, to rove through infinity freely, and visit the past unconfined. Then the horrible warning upon my soul sped, like the ominous morning that rises in red, and in panic I flew from the knowledge of terrors forgotten and dead. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dead Man Walking by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by David Federman. They hail me as one living, but don't they know that I have died of late years, untombed although? I am but a shape that stands here, a pulseless mold, a pale past picture, screening ashes gone cold. Not at a minute's warning, not in a loud hour, for me cease time's enchantments in hall and bower. There was no tragic transit, no catch of breath, when silent seasons inched me on to this death. A troubadour youth I rambled with life for lyre, the beats of being raging in me like fire. But when I practiced eyeing the goal of men, it iced me and I perished a little then. When passed my friend, my kinsfolk, through the last door, and left me standing bleakly, I died yet more. And when my love's heart kindled in hate of me, wherefore I knew not, died I one more degree. And if when I died fully I cannot say, and changed into the corpse thing I am today, yet is it that, though whiling the time somehow, in walking, talking, smiling, I live not now. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Despair by Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Read for LibriVox.org by Kane Perlic. KanePerlic@gmail.com. O'er the midnight moorlands crying, through the cypress forest sighing, in the night wind madly flying, hellish forms with streaming hair, in the barren branches creaking, by the stagnant swamp pools speaking, past the shore cliffs, ever shrieking, damned demons of despair. Once I think I half remembered, ere the gray skies of November quenched my youth's aspiring ember, lived there such a thing as bliss. Skies that now are dark were beaming, bold and azure, splendid seeming, till I learned it all was dreaming, deadly drowsiness of dis. But the stream of time, swift flowing, brings the torment of half-knowing, dimly rushing, blindly going, past the never-trodden lea. And the voyager, repining, sees the wicked death-fires shining, hears the wicked petrels whining, as he helpless drifts to sea. Evil wings in ether beating, vultures at the spirit eating, things unseen forever fleeting, black against the leering sky. Ghastly shades of bygone gladness, clawing fiends of future sadness, mingle in a cloud of madness, ever on the soul to lie. Thus the living, lone and sobbing, in the throes of anguish throbbing, with the loathsome furies robbing, night and noon of peace and rest. But beyond the groans and grating of abhorrent life is waiting, sweet oblivion, culminating, all the years of fruitless quest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dream by John Donne. Read for LibriVox.org by Caitlin Cooper. Dear love, for nothing less than thee would I have broke this happy dream. It was a theme for reason much too strong for fantasy. Therefore thou wakest me wisely, yet my dream thou breakest not, but continuest it. Thou art so true that thoughts of thee suffice to make dreams truths and fables histories. Enter these arms, for since thou thoughtest it best not to dream all my dream, let's act the rest. As lightning or a taper's light, thine eyes and not thy noise waked me. Yet I thought thee, for thou lovest truth, an angel at first sight. But when I saw, thou sawest my heart, and knewest my thoughts beyond an angel's art. When thou knewest what I dreamt, when thou knewest when excess joy would wake me, and camest then, I must confess it, I could not choose but be profane to think thee anything but thee. Coming and staying showed thee, but rising makes me doubt that now. Thou art not thou. That love is weak where fear is as strong as he. 'Tis not all spirit pure and brave, if mixture it of fear, shame, honour have. Perchance as torches which must ready be, men light and put out, so thou dealest with me. Thou camest to kindle, goest to come, then I will dream that hope again, but else would die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dying Child by John Clare. Read for LibriVox.org by Rhonda Federman. He could not die when trees were green, for he loved the time too well. His little hands, when flowers were seen, were held for the bluebell, as he was carried o'er the green. His eye glanced at the white-nosed bee, he knew those children of the spring. When he was well and on the lea, he held one in his hands to sing, which filled his heart with glee. Infants, the children of the spring, how can an infant die when butterflies are on the wing? Green grass and such a sky, how can they die at spring? He held his hands for daisies white, and then for violets blue, and took them all to bed at night, that in the green fields grew, as childhood's sweet delight. And then he shut his little eyes, and flowers would notice not. Birds' nests and eggs caused no surprise. He now no blossoms got. They met with plaintive sighs. When winter came and blasts did sigh, and bare were plain and tree, as he for ease in bed did lie, his soul seemed with the free. He died so quietly. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Easter, 1916, by William Butler Yeats, read for LibriVox.org by Laura Wimberley. I have met them at the close of day, coming with vivid faces from counter or desk among grey 18th century houses. I have passed with a nod of the head, or polite meaningless words, or have lingered a while and said polite meaningless words, and thought before I had done of a mocking tale or a jibe to please a companion around the fire at the club, being certain that they and I but lived where motley is worn. All changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. That woman's days were spent in ignorant goodwill, her nights in argument until her voice grew shrill. What voice more sweet than hers when young and beautiful she rode to harriers? This man had kept a school and rode a winged horse. This other, his helper and friend, was coming into his force. He might have won fame in the end, so sensitive his nature seemed, so daring and sweet his thought. This other man I had dreamed a drunken, vainglorious lout. He had done most bitter wrong to some who are near my heart. Yet I number him in the song. He too has resigned his part in the casual comedy. He too has been changed in his turn, transformed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Hearts with one purpose alone, through summer and winter seem enchanted to a stone to trouble the living stream, the horse that comes from the road, the rider, the birds that rage, from cloud to tumbling cloud, minute by minute change. A shadow of cloud on the stream changes minute by minute. A horse hoof slides on the brim, and a horse splashes within it. Where long-legged moor-hens dive, and hen to moor-cocks call, minute by minute they live, the stone's in the midst of it all. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, when may it suffice? That is heaven's part, our part, to murmur name upon name, as a mother names her child, when sleep has at last come on limbs that had run wild. What is it but nightfall? No, no, not night but death. Was it needless death after all? For England may keep faith, for all that is done and said. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. And what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in a verse. Macdonough and McBride and Connolly and Pierce, now in time to be, wherever green is worn, are changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fog by Carl Sandburg. Read for LibriVox.org by Karen Savage. The fog comes on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches, and then moves on. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I Loved by Alan Seeger, read for LibriVox.org by Leanna Noyes. I loved illustrious cities and the crowds that eddy through their incandescent nights. I loved remote horizons with far clouds, girdled and fringed about with snowy heights. I loved fair women, their sweet conscious ways of wearing among hands that covet and plead, the rose a-blossom at the rainbow's base, that bounds the world's desire and all its needs. Nature I worshipped, whose fecundity embraces every vision the most fair, of perfect benediction. From a boy I gloated on existence. Earth to me seemed all sufficient, and my sojourn there one trembling opportunity for joy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Read by Joanna Polisena. I Remember by Thomas Hood. I remember the house where I was born, the little window where the sun came peeping in at morn. He never came a wink too soon, nor brought too long a day. but now I often wish the night had borne my breath away. I remember the roses red and white, the violets and the lily cups, those flowers made of light, the lilacs where the robin built and where my brother set the laburnum on his birthday. The tree is living yet. I remember where I was used to swing, and thought the air must rush as fresh to swallows on the wing. My spirit flew in feathers then, that is so heavy now, and summer pools could hardly cool the fever on my brow. I remember the fir trees dark and high. I used to think their slender tops were close against the sky. It was a childish ignorance, but now 'tis little joy to know I'm further off from heaven than when I was a boy. End of I Remember. This recording is in the public domain. Love Not Me by Anonymous. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Polisena. Love not me for commonly grace, for my pleasing eye or face, nor for any outward part, no, nor for a constant heart. For these may fail or turn to ill, so thou and I shall sever. Keep therefore a true woman's eye, and love me still, but know not why. So hast thou the same reason still, to dote upon me ever. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Midsummer Noon by Charles Hamilton Musgrove. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Midsummer Noon. Through shimmering skies the big clouds slowly sail. A faint breeze lingers in a rustling beech. Atop the withered oak with vagrant speech, the brawling crows call down the sleepy vale. Unseen, the glad cicadas trill their tale of deep content in changeless, vibrant screech. And where the old fence rambles out of reach, the drowsy lizard hugs the shaded rail. Warm odours from the hayfield wander by. Afar the homing reaper's noontide tune floats on the mellow stillness like a sigh. One butterfly, ghost of a vanished June, soars dimly where in realms of purple sky dips the one crescent of the vapory moon. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. Read for LibriVox.org by Sergio Baldelli in Rome, October 2008. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on, not to the sensual ear, but, more endeared, pipe to the spirit that is of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade. Though thou hast not thy bliss, forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs, that cannot share your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. And, happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new, more happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and the parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what a green altar, O mysterious priest, lead'st thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with the garlands dressed? What little town by river sea-shore, or mountain built with a peaceful citadel, is emptied of its folk this pious morn? And, little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with the foresty branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou say'st, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. End of the poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On a Soldier Fallen in the Philippines by William Vaughn Moody. Read for LibriVox.org by Jerry Dixon. Streets of the roaring town, hush for him, hush, be still. He comes, who was stricken down, doing the word of our will. Hush, let him have his state. Give him his soldier's crown. The grist of trade can wait their grinding at the mill. But he cannot wait for his honor, now the trumpet has been blown. Wreathe pride now for his granite brow. Lay love on his breast of stone. Toll, let the great bells toll, till the clashing air is dim. Did we wrong this parted soul? We will make it up to him. Toll, let him never guess what work we sent him to. Laurel, laurel, yes, he did what we bade him do. Praise, and never a whispered hint but the fight he fought was good. Never a word that the blood on his sword was his country's own heart's blood. A flag for a soldier's bier, who dies that his land may live. O banners, banners here, that he doubt not nor misgive, that he heed not from the tomb the evil days draw near, when the nation robed in gloom with its faithless past shall strive. Let him never dream that his bullet scream went wide of its island mark, home to the heart of his darling land, where she stumbled and sinned in the dark. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Birth of a Child by Louis Untermeyer. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Gerry Hendershot, University Park, Maryland. On the Birth of a Child. Lo, to the battleground of life, child, you have come, like a conquering shout, out of a struggle into strife, out of a darkness into doubt. Girt with the fragile armor of youth, child, you must ride into endless wars with the sword of protest, the buckler of truth, and a banner of love to sweep the stars. About you the world's despair will surge. Into defeat you must plunge and grope. Be to the faltering an urge. Be to the hopeless years a hope. Be to the darkened world a flame. Be to its unconcern a blow. For out of its pain and tumult you came, and into its tumult and pain you go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Grasshopper and Cricket by John Keats, 1816. Read for LibriVox.org by Vanessa de Steppan, Berlin, Germany. The poetry of earth is never dead, when all the birds are faint with the hot sun, and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshopper's, he takes the lead. In summer luxury he has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never, on a lone winter evening, when the frost has wrought a silence, from the stove there shrills the cricket's song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshopper's, among some grassy hills. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Read for LibriVox.org by David Federman. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church tower as a signal light. 1 if by land, and 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm." Then he said, "Good night," and with a muffled oar silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon rose over the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset, British man of war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile, his friend through alley and street wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the old North Church, by the wooden stairs with stealthy tread, to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the sombre rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shade. By the trembling ladder steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down, a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead, in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear like a sentinel's tread the watchful night wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent, and seeming to whisper, "All is well." A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide, like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed at the landscape far and near, then, impetuous, stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and sombre and still. And lo, as he looks, on the belfry's height, a glimmer, and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns. but lingers and gazes, till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hooves in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles in passing a spark, struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet. That was all. And yet through the gloom and the light the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him tranquil and broad and deep is the mystic meeting the ocean tides. And under the alders that skirt its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting-house windows, blank and bare, gaze at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of the birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in his bed. Who at the bridge would be first to fall? Who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball? You know the rest in the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again, under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance, and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo for evermore. For borne on the night wind of the past, through all our history, to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Praise of Women by Robert Manning of Brunn. Read for LibriVox.org. No thing is to man so dear as woman is love in good manner. Oh, good woman is man's bliss, there her love right and steadfast is. There is no solace under heaven of all that a man may neven that should a man so much glue as a good woman that loveth true. Ne dearer is none in God is heard than a chaste woman with lovely word. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Read by Alan Davis Drake.
Prayer, a poem by Louis Untermeyer. Read for LibriVox.org by Gerry Hendershot, University Park, Maryland. Prayer. God, though this life is but a wraith, although we know not what we use, although we grope with little faith, give me the heart to fight and lose. Ever insurgent let me be, make me more daring than devout. From sleek contentment keep me free, and fill me with a buoyant doubt. Open my eyes to visions girt with beauty and with wonder lit, but always let me see the dirt, and all that spawn and die in it. Open my ears to music, let me thrill with the spring's first flutes and drums, but never let me dare forget the bitter ballads of the slums. From compromise and things half done, keep me with stern and stubborn pride, and when at last the fight is won, God, keep me still, unsatisfied. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by P.D. Wright. The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volumes of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of some one gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here for evermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is it, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarcely was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flunder, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord and lady, perched above my chamber door, pushed upon a burst of palace, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of its countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted burst upon his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, Other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird spoke, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, Doubtless, said I, what it uttered is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bustin' door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gone, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking Nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining, with the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press on nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee, respite, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, a bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home Bahar haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, a bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Iden it shall clasp a saint and maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a radiant maiden, whom the angel's name Lenore? Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or thing, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's plutonium shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust upon my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And so the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of the demons that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Seein Things by Eugene Field. Read for LibriVox.org by B.G. Oxford. I ain't afraid of snakes or toads or bugs or worms or mice, and things 'at girls are skeered of I think are awful nice. I'm pretty brave, I guess, and yet I hate to go to bed, for when I'm tucked up warm and snug, and when my prayers are said, Mother tells me happy dreams and takes away the light, and leaves me lying all alone and seeing things at night. Sometimes they're in the corner, sometimes they're by the door, sometimes they're all a-standin' in the middle of the floor. Sometimes they are a-sittin' down, sometimes they're walkin' round, so softly and so creepy-like they never make a sound. Sometimes they are as black as ink, and other times they're white, but color ain't no difference when you're seein' things at night. Once when I licked a feller 'at had just moved on our street, and father sent me up to bed without a bite to eat, I woke up in the dark and saw things standin' in a row, a-lookin' at me cross-eyed and a-pintin' at me, so. Oh my, I was so skeered at time I never slep a mite. It's almost allus when I'm bad I see things at night. Lucky thing I ain't a girl, or I'd be skeered to death. Bein' I'm a boy, I duck my head and hold my breath. And I am oh so sorry I'm a naughty boy, and then I promise to be better, and I say my prayers again. Grandma tells me that's the only way to make it right when a feller has been wicked and sees things at night. And so when other naughty boys would coax me into sin, I try to squash the tempter's voice that urges me within. And when they's pie for supper, or cakes 'at's big and nice, I want to, but I do not pass my plate for them things twice. Nope. Rather let starvation wipe me slowly out of sight than I should keep a-livin' and seein' things at night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ship of Death by D.H. Lawrence. Read for LibriVox.org by Caitlin Cooper. Now it is autumn in the falling fruit, in the long journey towards oblivion. The apples falling like great drops of dew to bruise themselves and exit from themselves. And it is time to go, to bid farewell to one's own self, and find an exit from the fallen self. Have you built your ship of death? Oh, have you? Oh, build your ship of death, for you will need it. The grim frost is at hand when the apples will fall thick, almost thunderous, on the hardened earth. and death is on the air like a smell of ashes. Ah, can't you smell it? And in the bruised body the frightened soul finds itself shrinking, wincing from the cold that blows upon it through the orifices. And can a man his own quietus make with a bare bodkin? With daggers, bodkins, bullets, man can make a bruise or break of exit for his life. But is that a quietus? Oh, tell me, is it quietus? Surely not so, for how could murder, even self-murder, ever a quietus make? Oh, let us talk of quiet that we know, that we can know, the deep and lovely quiet of a strong heart at peace. How can we this our own quietus make? Build then the ship of death, for you must take the longest journey to oblivion, and die the death, the long and painful death that lies between the old self and the new. Already our bodies are fallen, bruised, badly bruised. Already our souls are oozing through the exit of the cruel bruise. Already the dark and endless ocean of the end is washing in through the breaches of our wounds. Already the flood is upon us. Oh, build your ship of death, your little ark, and furnish it with food, with little cakes and wine for the dark flight down oblivion. Piecemeal the body dies, and the timid soul has her footing washed away as the dark flood rises. We are dying, we are dying, we are all of us dying, and nothing will stay the death flood rising within us, and soon it will rise on the world, on the outside world. We are dying, piecemeal our bodies are dying, and our strength leaves us, and our soul cowers naked in the dark rain over the flood, cowering in the last branches of the tree of our life. We are dying, so all we can do is now to be willing to die, and to build the ship of death to carry the soul on the longest journey. A little ship, with oars and food and little dishes, and all accoutrement fitting and ready for the departing soul. Now launch the small ship now as the body dies and life departs, launch out the fragile soul in the fragile ship of courage. The ark of faith with its store of food and little cooking pans, and change of clothes upon the flood's black waste, upon the waters of the end, upon the sea of death, where still we sail darkly, for we cannot steer and have no port. There is no port, there is nowhere to go, only the deepening blackness darkening still blacker upon the soundless ungurgling flood. Darkness at one with darkness, up and down and sideways utterly dark, so there is no direction any more. And the little ship is there, yet she is gone. She is not seen, for there is nothing to see her by. She is gone, gone, and yet somewhere she is there, nowhere. And everything is gone, the body is gone, completely undergone, entirely gone. The upper darkness is heavy as the lower. Between them the little ship is gone. It is the end. It is oblivion. And yet, out of eternity, a thread separates itself on the blackness, a horizontal thread that fumes a little with pallor upon the dark. Is it illusion, or does the pallor fume a little higher? Ah, wait, wait, for there is the dawn, the cruel dawn of coming back to life out of oblivion. Wait, wait, the little ship, drifting beneath the deathly ashy grey of a flood dawn. Wait, wait, even so, a flush of yellow, and strangely, O chilled wan soul, a flush of rose. A flush of rose, and the whole thing starts again. The flood subsides, and the body, like a worn sea-shell, emerges strange and lovely, and the little ship wings home, faltering and lapsing on the pink flood, and the frail soul steps out into the house again, filling the heart with peace. Swings the heart renewed with peace even of oblivion. Oh, build your ship of death, oh, build it, for you will need it, for the voyage of oblivion awaits you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Silence by Charles Hamilton Musgrove. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Silence. I am the word that lovers leave unsaid, the eloquence of ardent lips grown mute, the mourning mother's heart cry for her dead, the flower of faith that grows to unseen fruit. I am the speech of prophets when their eyes behold some splendid vision of the soul, the song of morning stars, the hill's replies, the far call of the immaterial pole. And, since I must be mateless, I shall win one boon beyond the meed of common clay. My life shall end where other lives begin, and live when other lives have passed away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Spartan Boy by Mary Lamb. Read for LibriVox.org by Ian Hatley. When I the memory repeat of the heroic actions great, which in contempt of pain and death were done by men who drew their breath, in ages past I find no deed that can in fortitude exceed the noble boy in Sparta bred, who in the temple ministered. By the sacrifice he stands, the lighted incense in his hands. Through the smoking censer's lid dropped a burning coal, which slid into his sleeve and passed in between the folds even to the skin. Dire was the pain which then he proved, but not for this his sleeve he moved, or with the scorching ember's sake out from the folds lest it should make any confusion or at sight disturbance at the sacred rite. But close he kept the burning coal till it eat itself a hole in his flesh. The slanders by saw no sign and heard no cry of his pains, had no discerning that they smelled the flesh of burning. All this he did in noble scorn, for he was a Spartan born. Young student, who this story readest, and with the same thy thoughts now feedest, thy weaker nerves might thee forbid to do the thing the Spartan did. Thy feeble heart could not disdain such dire extremity of pain. But in this story thou mayst see what may useful prove to thee. By his example thou wilt find that to the indigenous mind shame can greater anguish bring than the body's suffering. That the pain is not the worst of ills, not when it the body kills. That in the fair religion's cause, for thy country or the laws, when the occasion do so offer, 'tis reproachful not to suffer. That thou shouldest a soldier be, and a wound so trouble thee. If without the soldier's fame thou to chance should owe a maim, do not for a little pain on thy manhood bring a stain, but to keep thy spirit whole, think on the Spartan and the coal. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Spring and Fall by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Read for LibriVox.org by Michael Dalling. Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove, unleaving leaves like the things of man you, with your fresh thoughts careful? Can you? Ah, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder. By and by, nor spare a sigh, the worlds of one-wood leaf-meal lie, and yet you will weep, and know why. Now no matter, child, the name, sorrow's springs are the same, nor mouth had, no, nor mind expressed, what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for, it is Margaret you mourn for. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Strictly Germ-proof by Arthur Giederman, Read for LibriVox.org by Jerry Dixon. The antiseptic baby and the prophylactic pup were playing in the garden when the bunny gamboled up. They looked upon the creature with a loathing undisguised. It wasn't disinfected, and it wasn't sterilized. They said it was a microbe in a hotbed of disease. They steamed it in a vapor of 1,000-odd degrees. They froze it in a freezer that was cold as banished hope, and washed it in permanganate with carbonated soap. In sulfurated hydrogen they steeped its wiggly ears. They trimmed its frisky whiskers with a pair of hard-boiled shears. They donned their rubber mittens, and they took it by the hand and elected it a member of the fumigated band. There's not a micrococcus in the garden where they play. They bathe in pure iodoform 12 times a day, and each imbibes his rations from a hygienic cup, the bunny and the baby, and the prophylactic pup. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Three Quatrains by Edwin Arlington Robinson, recorded for LibriVox.org by Shona Brogdon-Sturble. 1. As long as fame's imperious music rings, will poets mock it with crowned words august, and haggard men will clamor to be kings as long as glory weighs itself in dust. 2. Drink to the splendor of the unfulfilled, nor shudder for the revels that are done. The wines that flushed Lucullus are all spilled. The strings that Nero fingered are all gone. 3. We cannot crown ourselves with everything, nor can we coax the fates for us to quarrel. No matter what we are or what we sing, time finds a withered leaf in every laurel. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When We Parted by Lord Byron. Read for LibriVox.org by P.D. Wright. When we two parted in silence and tears, half broken-hearted to sever for years, pale grew thy cheek, and colder thy kiss. Truly that hour foretold sorrow to this. The dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. It felt like the warning of what I feel now. The vows were all broken, and light is thy flame. I hear thy name spoken, and share in thy shame. Thy name is before me, and kneel to mine ear. A shudder come over me. Why wert thou so dear? Thou know I not knew thee, who knew thee too well. Long, long shall I rue thee, too deeply to tell. In secret we met, in silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee? With silence and tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Written in Northampton County Asylum by John Clare. Read for LibriVox.org. I am. Yet what I am, who cares, who knows? My friends forsake me like a memory lost. I am the self-consumer of my woes. They rise and vanish, an oblivious host, shadows of life, whose very soul is lost. And yet I live, though I am tossed into the nothingness of scorn and noise, into the living sea of waking dream, where there is neither sense of life nor joys, but the huge shipwreck of my own esteem and all that's dear. Even those I love the best are strange, nay, they are stranger than the rest. I long for scenes where man has never trod, for scenes where woman never smiled or wept, there to abide with my Creator, God, and sleep as I in childhood sweetly slept, full of high thoughts, unborn. So let me lie, the grass below, above the vaulted sky. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Read by Alan Davis Drake.
Zola by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Recorded for LibriVox.org by Abed. Because he puts the compromising chart of hell before your eyes, you are afraid. Because he counts the price that you have paid for innocence, and counts it from the start, you loathe him. But he sees the human heart of God meanwhile, and in his hand was weighed your squeamish and emasculate crusade against the grim dominion of his art. Never until we conquer the uncouth connivings of our shamed indifference, we call it Christian faith, are we to scan the racked and shrieking hideousness of truth to find, in hate's polluted self-defense, throbbing the pulse, the divine heart of man. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.